Out on the windy, windy moors, we'd roll and fall in green. You had a temper like my jealousy, too hard, too greedy. How could you leave me when I needed to possess you? I hated you, I loved you too. Bad dreams in the night. He told me I was going to lose the fight. Leave behind my walking through the high seas. It's me, I can't be, I come home, my so cold. Let me alone, please. It's me, I can't be, I come home, my so cold. Let me alone. Ooh, it gets
How's it now? Can you hear me now? Is the audio working now? I sure hope so, because I would not want to restart the stream. Scotty says, I can read lips. He said, hello, my friends. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying. Okay. It works now. So today I want to announce the winners of the sweater giveaway quickly at the very beginning. I'm going to discuss this spook here, Elon Musk, because he got me upset the other day when he tanked the price of Bitcoin. The audio is double. Oh no. What does that mean? You're getting an echo? It repeats. You've retracted the messages now. Does that mean that it's not repeating for you? Never mind, he says. Okay. So I want to talk about this guy, Elon Musk, this spook, this absolute spooky individual, because he tanked the price of Bitcoin the other day for basically no reason. And the reasons that he gave for... Oh, let me back up. This guy bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin back in January or February and announced that he would start accepting Bitcoin for the purchase of Tesla vehicles. And that obviously had a very positive effect on Bitcoin. Simulacrum is saying, good sound but quiet. Well, I can't turn it up any louder. You'll just have to turn your volume up. So after making a $1.5 billion investment in Bitcoin, he just now, like months later, 3-4 months later, decides that he's going to stop accepting Bitcoin. And of course, that has the opposite effect of the initial investment. It tanked the price of Bitcoin. And now, we'll get into that because I think that this guy has a lot going on in his biography that, in my opinion, proves he is not exactly what he's portrayed to be in the media. I don't think that he is this independent genius that came up with all these ideas and succeeded all on his own and is like the face of private enterprise in America. I don't think that that is the case. I think that he is actually more like an actor or a figurehead for front companies that are deeply rooted in the U.S. government and the CIA. And this isn't, I'll give credit where credit is due, even though I'm sure he wouldn't even want me to mention him. But this kind of is going off of some of the ideas that Miles Mathis had in his article on Elon Musk. So credit where credit is due. He did some pretty good research in that article, but I'll be going through some of the things that I think are the most damning, the most suspicious. And other than that, I will be reacting to suggestions because I have about, at this point, 45 minutes before I have to go. So I'll be reacting to some suggestions from the Discord suggestions channel. And just, having a good time chatting with you guys. So, first of all, the sweater winners. I'm going to sort of anonymize the names of the winners. So, a guy, Jay from Sweden, has won the wool flannel. The nice 100% wool flannel. Jay from Sweden tells me that it is very hard to find 100% wool flannels in Sweden. So it's fortunate for him that he won. Congratulations. I don't know where A is from just yet. He hasn't sent me his address, but you have won the woman's sweater for your wife. I hope she likes it. M, you have won the hat. You've already gotten a notification for that and responded to me with your address, so that will be sent sometime next week. I hope you enjoy it, hope it fits, and hope you get some good use out of it. And H, not sure where H is from, hasn't responded yet to his notification that he won, but H, congratulations, you've won the men's XL sweater. I hope you guys all enjoy. I'll be doing more giveaways like this in the future. Probably not until the next sweater season, but look forward to it. Oh, A is Aaron. You're in the chat. Congratulations. I hope she enjoys it. So, those are the winners of the giveaway, and like I said, probably not until the next sweater season, but I will be doing more sweater giveaways. It's kind of fun, and yeah, so let's talk about Elon Musk. I've already sort of set the stage for you as to what upset me about this. There's a lot of things about Elon Musk's decision to suddenly disown Bitcoin that make absolutely no sense. And, I'm not a crypto YouTuber. I'm not somebody who's deep in researching the topic of cryptocurrency. I know a bit about cryptocurrency. I've known about Bitcoin since like late 2010. I remember back when you could go to websites called Bitcoin faucets, and once a day you could click a button and get a free Bitcoin, a free half a Bitcoin, a free quarter of a Bitcoin. You could go to different faucet websites and rack up what is now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin back in 2010 for free. And you could do it like once a day. Go to these Bitcoin faucets and just click a button, and if you were to have held what you got from those faucet websites until now, you would be a rich man. I unfortunately did not hold. At the time, I believed that Bitcoin was not a fad, but that it was sort of an initial concept that would be improved upon and ultimately replaced. And it still could be that something, some kind of Bitcoin killer will come along. Adam Pants says, "You're giving me anxiety, man." Why am I giving you anxiety? Scotty says, "You told me in high school I should buy Bitcoin. Now here we are, and I still have no Bitcoin." Could you imagine, man, if we just kept the Bitcoin that we had, or if you would have just put back when it was, I remember when it was $7 a coin. But anyway, despite the fact that I've known about it for a decade, I'm not a big-time crypto researcher. It's not something that excites me. I like the idea of sort of a decentralized and untrackable exchange medium, which at this point really isn't even what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin has become trackable. Bitcoin is a lot more easily traced than people think it is, which is why things like Monero are becoming more popular. But I, I'm not the most knowledgeable person about crypto. However, what I do believe is that crypto is going to become the globalization medium of exchange, the medium of exchange that is going to provide the infrastructure for international economics. And the writing is on the wall. It seems very clear to me that every aspect of nationalism is being destroyed at this point in history. You have national cultures being sort of subsumed, brought in, absorbed by the international corporate global culture. You have even, the nations themselves, the biological entities, which used to be called nations, the ethnic groups being mixed and moved around and diluted by mass immigration. You have internet or national politics being replaced by international political organizations like the UN. Very relevant to recent events is like the World Health Organization, where it seems like the World Health Organization has become the international authority on matters of public health. So it's only a matter of time that national currencies get absorbed into the globalized project, the project of international unity and homogeneity and this push toward globalization. So what will replace the national currency in the future? I think it has to be crypto. Crypto seems like the obvious answer for what will ultimately replace national currencies. So I think moving forward, maybe it will be Bitcoin that comes out on top. Maybe it will be something else, but it definitely will be crypto. And so it's very strange to me that someone like Elon Musk, who is 100% linked, and we'll get into these links, 100% linked to the establishment that will ultimately bring about this globalization, why he is suddenly disowning Bitcoin. It seems to me like, I can only speculate on why, but it seems like this is a sort of a FUD tactic, a FUD standing for fear, uncertainty, doubt, a shakeout to try to get average people to drop their Bitcoin so that big corporations can continue to hoover up the Bitcoin stocks, the Bitcoin shares, I should say. They're not really, I hate people who call Bitcoin shares, but you know what I mean, like the share of the market of Bitcoin. So that's kind of a speculation of mine, but it seems like it's pure chaos what this guy is doing, because look, his reasoning, the rationalization that he gave for disowning Bitcoin is that it's bad for the environment. However, here's an example of, on April 21st, this guy Jack, I don't know who he is, tweets on Twitter, Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy, linking to an article from Square Crypto saying, if Bitcoin needs anything, it's more white papers. In this one, Square and ARK Invest team up to argue for Bitcoin as a key driver of renewable energy's future. So it seems like some of the stats that I've seen are things like 75% of Bitcoin mining is done with renewable energy, and that somehow they're making the argument that Bitcoin is Jack is the founder of Twitter, Mugen says. I didn't know that was him. Point is, they're making the argument that Bitcoin is a driver, a promoter. It somehow incentivizes renewable energy projects. And Elon Musk says true. So whether or not you believe this, we could argue whether or not Bitcoin is actually driving renewable energy. But Elon Musk says true. This was on April 22nd. So it seems like he's agreeing that Bitcoin is good for renewable energy. And another example is Dan Held saying, mocking, in like a mocking tone, Bitcoin uses too much energy. He types on his $2,000 MacBook Pro in his $5,000 per month apartment while sipping on his $10 daily latte. If you're spending $10 on a latte, by the way, neck yourself. A Paul Krugman podcast softly plays in the background. And Elon Musk responds with the laughing, crying emojis. Sort of implying that he agrees that it's silly when people say that Bitcoin uses too much energy. Because how many other things do we do on a daily basis that expend massive amounts of energy and require massive amounts of production of carbon and burning of coal and the extraction of oil from the earth. And there's so many things that use massive amounts of energy, and Bitcoin is really one of the least of these of our concerns when it comes to this kind of a thing. So Elon Musk signaling that, he thinks that the whole energy consumption concerns of Bitcoin are silly and not a real concern, and if anything, it's driving renewable energy and all this. And then suddenly he decides, never mind, Bitcoin takes too much energy, and I'm going to stop accepting them for the Teslas. So this makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you don't invest $1.5 billion into something and then months later decide that you're going to have a change of heart and do a 180 on it. It just, to me, it makes no sense. And there's got to be some kind of ulterior motive to this. Tribal permaculturist in the chat, sort of changing the topic here, says, anybody got updates on what's going on in Israel? Personally, I've seen a lot of arguments and a lot of sort of debate going on Twitter about the situation in Israel and about people's takes on the situation in Israel. I couldn't possibly care less about what's going on in Israel, personally. Here in Chicago, there was a big protest in favor of the Palestinians. I couldn't possibly care less. To me, it's of no consequence whatsoever. And there's this whole idea of like the Greater Israel Project going on, where Israel is eventually going to take over most of the Middle East, going all the way to the Mesopotamian rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, and reestablish some kind of great Israeli empire or whatever. Whether or not that happens, is irrelevant to the sort of global issues, which are, um, whether or not Israel becomes the center of the New World Order, or whether or not Israel actually does, it doesn't matter to me, because the you-know-whos who are in charge of the whole New World Order, they're international. And I don't know if there will ever be, I mean, maybe at some point there will be some kind of global capital city. But Morar La says, you don't have to take a side, but you will be affected. If someone can explain to me how I will be affected by the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I would love to hear that explanation. I don't want to get too off the topics here, but Scotty says, the community that I care about is getting smaller and smaller every day. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that there's always an entertainment factor when it comes to conflicts, like military conflicts going on in the world. There's always just sort of an interest in that because it's military conflict, you know. It doesn't. It's always something to keep your eye on, but to me, it's not one of the bigger issues. And especially, I will say this: I disagree with the people who try to take the side of like the Palestinians or the Israelis and say, because I've heard this from both sides, to try to take these brown ethnic groups from the Middle East and say, look, they justify our agenda. If we promote the Palestinians for having their own national sovereignty, then we can use that to justify to the liberals or to the normies that our ethnic groups in our countries, deserve their own autonomy, their own political sovereignty. That to me is the opposite of what we ought to be doing. We like to go and pander to leftists who love the brown people in the Middle East and say, look, we're just like them. That is never going to work, and it's just embarrassing, in my opinion. That's anyway. Let's carry on. So about Elon Musk, what's weird about this guy? I rambled about Bitcoin for a bit too long. Let's talk about Elon Musk and what's strange about him. First of all, his parents are pretty wealthy and well-connected. That's always a bad sign. When someone has wealthy and well-connected family, parents especially, and yet they are being presented as if they struggled from nothing and became ultra wealthy just based on pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps. And like, let's see if I can find the footnote. Yeah, here. So they present Musk as if before his company became successful, he could not afford an apartment, and instead he slept on the office couch and showered at the YMCA. And according to another report on him, he ate 3 times a day at Jack in the Box. He was, probably other legends say that he ate nothing but ramen for weeks, and he would go and fill up his water bottle at the public water fountain, all kinds of, like, just making him appear as if he came from nothing. He came from the bottom, and now he's a centibillionaire. But that's just not true. And whenever somebody is presented with that kind of a story and it's just found, you discover that it's completely not true, that's a suspicious thing to me. So his father was a South African electromechanical engineer, a pilot, a sailor, consultant, and property developer. Now, when they say pilot, sailor, and engineer, and electromechanical engineer, you can almost guarantee that this guy was involved with the military. Pilots, sailors, and electromechanical engineers, that sort of combination of skills, that skill set right there, is very much a desirable skill set for the military. So you can almost guarantee that this guy was involved with the military. And we'll see after a bit of investigation of Musk that he has been involved very closely with the military and the government. So carrying on, his mother, Mae Musk, is a very spooky looking she's like 73, I think, in this photo. To look like this at 73, you've got to be on some kind of adrenochrome or something, or some kind of I'm joking about the adrenochrome, but some kind of weird, maybe stem cell therapy from the foreskins of Goyim or something. But she has been a lifelong model and, quote, dietitian. So she's been and her last name Haldeman, that could be who-ish for all we know. She doesn't look particularly who-ish, but Haldeman, and her father being a chiropractor and amateur archaeologist. Her father did a bunch of media. We could see that from just the schools that he went to. He apparently went to Wharton School, private Ivy League university, very expensive school, and ended up getting a degree in economics, and then from Pennsylvania, he suddenly shot over to Silicon Valley with internships at an energy storage startup, which researched electrolytic ultracapacitors for energy storage. And something that I think should be known about these sort of like ultracapacitors and semiconductors and other sort of these big companies that are behind computing and semiconductors and microchips and microprocessors, all these sorts of things. All of them, just about, have their origins in military projects. Intel, IBM, Compaq, Texas Instruments. When you look into just about all of these electro engineering companies that have laid the foundations for things like computers and the internet, just about all of them have their origins in high-level military projects. So whenever you see somebody like here, his first company, Zip2, magically received hundreds of thousands of dollars of funds from, quote, angel investors after Musk, slept on the couch and showered at the YMCA. He magically receives hundreds of thousands of dollars in investments, and then after just obtaining contracts with some of the biggest newspapers of the nation, like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. This guy comes out of nowhere, obtains contracts with the New York Times and Chicago Tribune, even though these papers were already involved with online databasing, because this is what Zip2 did, was it provided sort of a database, sort of like an online yellow pages. It connected advertisers with the consumers and things of that nature. Musk suddenly obtains these contracts with these like top level newspapers and then gets bought out by Compaq. And Compaq is one of these companies that I was mentioning, founded by senior managers of Texas Instruments, and Texas Instruments, of course, was one of these companies that, so for example, here during World War II, GSI, which was the original name, Geophysical Service Incorporated, of Texas Instruments. It expanded its services to include electronics for the U.S. Army, the Army Signal Corps, the U.S. Navy, and in 1951 changed its name to Texas Instruments. So we have, this, of course, here they were doing top secret government contracts to monitor the Soviet Union. So Texas Instruments, there's a spin-off of Texas Instruments, Compaq, and Compaq, of course, purchases Musk's company for $307 million in cash. So that is supposed to be where Musk gets his first big score. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Emil says, internet was created to mine data. Yes, it was created by the military. I mean, of course, just being on the internet doesn't mean that you're connected to the military, but that is if you're at one of these high-level institutions like Compaq, like Texas Instruments, and you're getting bought out for hundreds of millions of dollars. It's debatable whether or not. I mean, it's just suspicious that you have to wonder whether or not these companies were already associated, and or whether or not this type of a purchase put someone like Musk onto the radar of these high-level interests, and getting this kind of money from them means, well, now you're going to play ball with us, you're in the circle, that kind of a thing. Adam Pants asks, how far ahead do you think military technology is before they release it to the public? 100 years ahead? I don't know about 100 years ahead, but they're certainly ahead. There's a pretty crazy clip that I remember from Alex Jones, how he showed that the military was doing things like VR, virtual reality, with headsets and sound, and even stuff like tactile sensations, getting air, getting scents, getting all kinds of weird tactile virtual reality stuff. Back in like the 50s, they had things like virtual reality headsets. So some people are saying 20, 10 years, 30 to 40 years. I think it depends on the technology. We are kind of at a point where the exponential growth of technology that was witnessed over the 20th century has kind of reached a peak. There's only so much that can be done, technologically speaking, and just about every invention that has happened over the last 15, 20 years, even maybe 30 years, has been improvements on previous technology. So anyway, continuing on, we could talk about PayPal and how PayPal was one of the biggest corporate institutions to begin accepting crypto, and Musk was apparently one of these people who was at the beginning of PayPal, founding X.com, online bank, and it sort of combined, it merged with PayPal. So that's another bizarre connection that Musk has with crypto, and it makes you wonder, Musk is still one of the largest shareholders of PayPal, it seems. And PayPal still accepts crypto, including Bitcoin. So one of Musk's projects, PayPal, is accepting Bitcoin and facilitating Bitcoin transactions, but his other project, Tesla, is not. Just another fact that makes you think, this whole Tesla suddenly rejecting Bitcoin is it's got to be some kind of manipulative tactic to manipulate the market. It makes no sense on the surface. So continuing on to let's talk about one more of Musk's interesting connections here. SpaceX is probably the strangest of Musk's so-called projects, because this I have a hard time believing that Musk is really the mastermind behind SpaceX. First of all, one of the biggest contracts that SpaceX ever got was with NASA, supplying the International Space Station. And you got to wonder, why would the government hire a private company like SpaceX to supply the International Space Station when hiring this private company supposedly made Musk stinking rich? It made him billions of dollars, apparently. Let's see if I could find SpaceX won demonstration and actual supply contracts from NASA for the International Space Station with technology the company developed. SpaceX is also certified for the U.S. military launches of evolved expendable launch vehicle class payloads, with approximately 30 missions on the manifest for 2018 alone. SpaceX represents over $12 billion under contract. So this is making Musk stinking rich on something that the U.S. government should be able to do in-house. And this is taxpayer money. Taxpayer money that is going to Elon Musk when, you should be able to just get this done within the department itself, pay people a reasonable salary, and if you're going to use taxpayer money, get it done for less than $12 billion, and especially get it done without paying someone like Musk billions of dollars to do it. It makes no sense from a fiscal sort of budget standpoint. So, and this sort of thing, when you work for some place like NASA, by the way, during this time, NASA was headed by this individual, Michael D. Griffin, who was also the president of In-Q-Tel, which was the CIA venture capitalist arm. So there's just the whole web of interconnections between high-level military, intelligence, corporate structures. It's just they're all independent or interdependent and interconnected. So why would they do this? Why? My only theory that I could come up with for why they would pay a place like SpaceX or a company like SpaceX to do these deliveries is, once again, pointing toward globalism. In the future, I think that they would the whole space program is sort of a globalist propaganda project where the more we do things in space, the more people believe that things like space travel. Final limo ride says, flatten your green screen. My gods, I can't do it. It's oh, did someone just donate? Gen Z Philosophy donated $5. Thank you. He says, was Dolph Higgler a Freemason / tool of the Anglos and partially used to create Israel? Was he controlled opposition or the real deal? Why or why not? That's a whole... Maybe I could talk about that in the next live stream. Or maybe I'll come back to it later, but let me just continue with this. The whole space program is, as I think Ratatosk said in a great video. Go check out Ratatosk's channel. The whole thing is meant to create this unified global culture that is, in my opinion, the clearest motivation of things like the space program, because the more people buy this idea of we're going to travel to other planets, we're going to be doing things in space, we're going to be exploring the universe as a species, contacting alien species, those kinds of things, it redefines the us versus them paradigm as us Earthlings, us the human race, us the species on Earth, versus them, the other planets, the other alien species, that kind of a thing. That's the biggest. If you talk to anybody who's really into NASA and space travel and Rick and Morty and that kind of shit, typically they are the types of people who love this idea of like an Earth Federation, that it's like, you know, a Star Trek kind of mentality of everyone on Earth is now part of a federation, and we're going to the next conflict will be against alien species, and we have to work together as a species to colonize other planets and all that kind of thing. So that, I think, is the main propaganda function of it also serves to make a lot of people stinking rich with taxpayer money, but the main propaganda function is something along those lines. A redefinition, a reframing of the us versus them mentality in people. And I think giving a contract, a major contract, and promoting private space travel, like with a company like SpaceX, rather than a national department like NASA, the more things are made private, the more things are made, the more easily things are internationalized, in a sense. Someone else just... Terry A. Davis, 1488 donation, says, shit. Thank you, Terry A. Davis. You did a great job with your operating system. So that, I think, is the more you can privatize things, the easier it is to detach from the national identity. And moving forward in the next 20, 30 years, I think we'll see more and more of these private entities taking over what used to be national, because then it's a lot easier to make to internationalize, to globalize. So when in doubt, when you're wondering what if something doesn't make sense, politically speaking, always ask yourself, could this possibly contribute to the agenda of globalization? Because that will generally give you a reasonable answer to the question. So there's more we could talk about, but I think I'll leave it at that for now with Musk. Can't stand the guy. I think his whole persona is ridiculous. He released a rap track, R.I.P. Harambe. Anyway, moving on to some suggestions. Let's just talk suggestions here. Emil says space travel and exploration is unfathomably difficult. I completely agree. Space travel will never happen in terms of like colonizing other planets. It will never happen. And there are so many reasons for that I could make a whole episode on that. First of all, let's talk about the planets within our own solar system. Mars is half the size of Earth, approximately. And it's not just the fact that Mars does not have a global magnetic field, which allows for solar radiation and galactic radiation to bombard the surface with radiation at levels that are just not that don't occur on Earth. LJG says you're too quiet. Well, turn your volume up. I can't turn. I don't know what the problem is, but on my end it has the volume going all the way up into the yellow and red, so I don't even want to turn it up. Anyway, it's not just the radiation because of the lack of the magnetic field. It's not just the atmosphere being deprived of oxygen. It's not just the temperature being hundreds of degrees below 0 Celsius. It's not just the lack of water. These are all reasons that it would be very difficult to survive on Mars, but it's also one of the biggest things, I think, is the fact that it's half the size of Earth, and the gravity of Mars would be half the strength of Earth's. And this is something that is important for space travel itself. Because did you know, it's kind of an obvious thing, but this is something that a lot of people don't think about, the body is meant to exist in gravity, in a certain, it's fine-tuned to the gravity of Earth. All of our blood vessels, our digestive system, the fluid dynamics that are occurring within our bodies, all of that is fine-tuned to resist a very specific strength of gravity. And without that, things start to really go goofy quickly. The digestive system, especially for people who are supposedly in outer space, the digestive system starts to malfunction. The circulatory system starts to get issues. Blood clots become a lot easier to occur. There are so many problems that start to occur when the gravity is different. It's just insurmountable. Completely insurmountable. And I don't want to drone on about this too long, but for a different planet to be potentially colonizable, you would have to find a planet that was just about exactly the same as Earth. Same size, density, atmosphere, distance from the sun, all these things. And that's practically impossible. I'm sure one exists, but it would have to be hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of light years away. And the time it would take to reach that would be impossibly long. You cannot have generations born and raised on these spaceships. They're biologically, it's impossible. And the answer to that science fiction lovers always come up with is, oh, well, we'll find some kind of faster than light method of travel. Some kind of space bending, time warping method of travel. But that's impossible. And I'll leave it at that. I could get more into that. I do have philosophical and scientific arguments against those kinds of sci-fi ideas, like bending space-time to travel. And I could talk about that on another show, but I'll leave it at that. So I've only got about 5 more minutes. And let's just see what some people have suggested in the Discord real quick. If there's anything good here. Smogland says, I have begun to see space travel and colonization in the same way. We are simply not supposed to. I agree. Oh, here's an Alex Jones clip. Oh, never mind. It's just about them putting stuff in the water that's turning the freaking frogs gay. I have to say, fellas, from the Discord, not impressed with the suggestions that you made for the past couple weeks.
I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Sorry, Boomy. Here's a tweet. CIA is cringe.
Syndrome, but at 36, I used to struggle with imposter syndrome, but at 36, I refuse to internalize misguided patriarchal ideas of what a woman can or should be. I am tired of feeling like I'm supposed to apologize for the space I occupy rather than intoxicate people with my effort.
What the hell? This is pretty funny, actually. She says that she struggled with imposter syndrome. Those who don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's this psychologized state of mind that they've come up with, where essentially you believe that you don't deserve, where you doubt your skills, talents, or accomplishments and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as an imposter. And I guarantee that this woman is an imposter. She probably makes a hell of a lot of money. What she does for the CIA, I couldn't tell you. But she has a shirt on that says, Mija, you are worth it. This constant reinforcement, this constant need for validation is not a good sign. It's not a good sign for somebody if you know, that's not what somebody who truly has mastery. Yeah, Don Joe says, diversity hire gets imposter syndrome. Imagine that. Imagine my shock. This is not the type of attitude that somebody who truly has a mastery over their particular field has. it's just incredible that you can have this you have people out there working in high positions that need this constant validation and reinforcement, and we're supposed to just say that, you know, their own feelings that they aren't actually qualified for that position are not valid, we should start listening to their instincts. We should start listening to their gut feeling and not tell them that they're mentally ill for not believing in themselves, because they probably shouldn't. This woman, instead of working for the CIA, should be living somewhere in Mexico or in Central or South America, having 6 kids for their day laborer husband, taking care of those kids, maybe, you know, making some kind of little dolls or knickknacks for tourists to buy, selling chiclets or something, and then I guarantee she wouldn't have imposter syndrome.
My brilliance. I am proud of me. Full stop. My parents left everything they knew and loved to expose me to opportunities they never had. Because of them, I stand here today a proud first-generation Latina and officer at CIA.
Yikes. So, that's all I have for today. That's all I would love to go on for another hour, but I have to go to work, and I actually have the day off tomorrow as well, so I'm thinking about doing a live stream tomorrow, a longer one. And so thank you very much to the people who donated with super chats today. It can't tell you how much that means to me. I really appreciate it. And to the people who won the sweaters, you can expect those in the mail sometime next week. And to everyone else in the chat, maybe I'll have a stream tomorrow. I'd like to have a longer one, and maybe I'll have, if anyone's interested in chatting, maybe I'll have someone in the Discord and we could do a chat. Have a couple people, maybe a panel discussion. I'm up for trying all kinds of stuff for these streams. It's still trying to figure out what'll work best and what you guys will enjoy watching and all that. So goodbye, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll end with another song by Kate Bush.